Hello, hello. You know, the world is a crazy place. It really is. The world that we are currently living in, the world that some people are growing up in or just getting older in general, it is a crazy, crazy place. It is a crazy time to be alive. I was just scrolling through social media the other day and I came across a video and it showed the indistinguishability between reality and AI. And I was like, man, I am scammed when I'm older if things continue going at this pace. Like, most things you can tell the difference between what's real and what's not, but we're starting to get to a line where it's getting harder and harder to tell every single day. And that's mostly for like photo and video content. And it's a fine line to walk. But more than anything, it got me thinking, and I just wanted to share my ideas on AI because it is super prominent in the spaces that I work in as a creative, as an artist, as a photographer, designer, all these different things. But before I get into it, if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. And if you've never seen my face, never seen one of my videos, my name is McKenna. I own a digital media company called Studio SB Creatives. And today, we're of course going to be talking about my opinion, my thoughts on AI. These are not concrete ideals. These are not ideas that you have to accept or agree with. This is just me giving a little bit of input on what I think about AI. And as I was saying kind of before this intro, it's a fine line. There are a lot of fine lines when it comes to artificial intelligence, how it's used and applied to everyday life. I think that used correctly, AI is a tool that will streamline just about every industry in one way or another. I think that if it is used appropriately, with the right intentions, just with everybody's heart in the right place, I think that it can be used to propel society forward at a pace we've never seen. And, I think it's also a double-edged sword where moving at that pace is something that we also may not be prepared for. But we've seen a million times in the past where technology has made significant strides in very little time, such as the time between when we created the first airplane to when we landed, a man on the moon. Like that was, I think, like 50, maybe like at max, it was like 60 years between the Wright brothers and Neil Armstrong. It was Neil Armstrong, right? I think it was Neil Armstrong. I hope that I'm right about that. But I've seen other things where it's like it took people longer to go from like copper swords to bronze swords or something like that to when it took them to go from like bronze swords to like nuclear bombs. It's just crazy the leaps and bounds that technology goes through, and once the ball starts rolling, it just snowballs into something bigger and bigger and bigger and better and faster and just crazier. 100 years ago, we were communicating by written letters being delivered on horseback across the country to 80, 90 years later. I was about to go with email, but I think the fax machine was around when Abraham Lincoln was around. So that's crazy. So we're getting a little bit off topic, but I think AI is a double-edged sword. I don't think that AI is necessarily going to be a replacement for people in any industry. It might replace certain tasks. It might replace, certain jobs or what have you. But the thing is, I don't think AI will ever do as good a job as a human will do in certain realms. Like organization, bookkeeping, numbers, data. I think that it will outperform people in most instances because it's algorithm based. It is created to not make those kind of errors. Now, when it comes to artistic creation, when it comes to that side of things, making art, making designs, I don't think that AI will ever fully be able to replace humans, because what makes human art so special, since we first started many, many thousands and thousands of years ago to today's art, is that no matter how far AI comes along, no matter how far it gets and how much it can do, the one thing that a computer will always lack that every human has is soul. AI creates an algorithm-based composition based on the information that it is given. And the more specific you are, the more closely it can get to the final product that you have imagined in your mind. But nothing, no matter how much information you put in, nothing you do, it will never get it 100% right. Never. I don't think. Unless for some reason, eventually you can hook your brain up to a computer and it can just project exactly what you're thinking, which I'm not going to put past technology because, at this point, I think anything is truly possible. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. But there is something special about a pencil on paper, a brush on a canvas, the things that people create with their hands and their mind and their body and their soul. There is an element there that I don't think will ever be replaced by some wires, some algorithms, technology as a whole. I think that overall technology has always been an aid to people. Like I use a digital camera. That is technology, but I would not be able to create my art without it, but it itself cannot do what I can do. It does not, I set it up to do a certain thing, but it can't take the pictures that I take. My computer can't make the designs that I make. I think that when used correctly, when used with the right intentions, it is nothing more than a helper, an aid, an additional part to make things easier, but I don't think that it will ever replace people. Now, I just kind of want to stay on the topic of art because if we start getting into the photo video stuff, that's where things get wishy-washy, and I think that free will overtake someone's outright ability to just be a good human and do the right thing. I think that with image creation and with video creation through AI, we've already seen that people abuse and use it in ways that it should not be used. But that's human nature, That's the reality for some people. Some people just want to watch the world burn, and there's not a whole lot that you or I can do about that. But I think that there may come a point when something will seriously need to be done about certain facets of AI. But I think that overall, it is such a powerful and useful tool to help people get things done and make massive progressions in whatever field or industry that they are a part of. Like I use AI to generate video ideas and to plan out schedules and to, just streamline the process of a lot of the creative things that I do, but it doesn't take me out of the creative process. Like I have it do a task or a couple tasks, but only so that I don't have to waste my time doing those things. Where let's think about it this way. Like the other day I realized that Adobe had given me a bunch of free AI tokens. I get unlimited generations for X amount of time. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I had this idea where I wanted to do this watercolor painting, and it was of something very specific, but it was not something that existed. It does not exist. I could try and make it exist in my mind, but I can only do so much, and it would take a lot of trial and error for me to get it right and figure out all these things. So basically what I did was I plugged the information into this AI image generator, Adobe Firefly, I think is what it is. And I'm like creating a bunch of different images, trying to get as close as possible to the idea that I have in my head. And I get closer and closer and closer and closer, more details, more details, more details. And I eventually get to something where I'm like, okay, that's like almost perfect. Now let's generate it in the way of watercolors. Let's see what it would look like if it were a painting. And I generate an image, and I get really close the first time. I'm like, that's not quite what I want. And I generate more and more and more, and I start getting further away, so I have to draw it back in. And I'm like, okay. And eventually I get to basically what I want to see, and I'm like, okay. So I have a reference image, two reference images, one of the actual thing that would exist in reality, and one version of what I would want it to what I want to create, this watercolor painting, this version of it. And I'm like, so now I have these references, but they don't actually exist. And I'm like, sure, I could print this AI generated image of this watercolor painting on a canvas and throw it up on my wall. But it's like, that's not special, man. There's nothing special about that. I don't want to put AI art on my wall and then have somebody ask me about it and be like, oh, who did this, or what did this? Like, where'd you get this? It's like, oh, I just made it on an AI image generator. That sounds so lame. So lame. But think about it this way. Now I have these reference images. If I, get myself this gigantic 5 by 4 foot canvas, 3.5 feet, and I do this watercolor painting, and I just use a reference image, because people have been using reference images forever. So don't even come at me for that. I might not be the best artist in the world, and I might have to use a reference image, and some people might not. But dude, everybody uses reference images. It's like, don't even come at me for that. But if I create this gigantic canvas and somebody sees it and they're like, whoa, that's like super cool. Like, where'd you get this? And it's like, oh, I made it. And, they look at it. And I think what makes human art so special is not only the ability that it was created by the hands of a human, but also that there are human imperfections in art. The one missed stroke, the line that was erased by accident, the color that was created that was just a little bit off from what was wanted. There are so many things where AI mess ups are a lot different than, human error, human imperfection, if you will. And I think that truly what makes something created by humans is the imperfection. And it's like, AI's imperfection is just because a prompt wasn't good enough. It's because it didn't have the brain power to create exactly what somebody wanted to create. Now, human imperfection is a little bit different. It's that imperfect line, that imperfect stroke, those things that happen by accident, but the accidents make the work better. That'll probably never happen with AI. So that's my 2 cents. I think overall that AI is a super powerful tool that will be used in aid to artists and creatives alike to get things done, to be more creative, to be more expressive. But I don't think that it will ever fully replace them. Like I said, I think that it is a double-edged sword as well. I think that it is a scary world that we live in. I think that there are a lot of uncertainties attached to the idea and the reality that is AI. But I think, I hope that as it progresses, as we, get further into the future, and as we get more comfortable with AI in our daily lives, that we work the kinks out, that we figure out how to make it a safe and useful tool versus a weapon of sorts, But we'll have to see. We will have to see. But that's pretty much all I've got for you. Those are my thoughts. So, with that being said, if you like this video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you use AI for anything creative, go ahead and leave me a comment. If you agree with my thoughts, leave me a comment. Let's talk about AI in the comments section. Let's figure out, I want to hear what your thoughts are. Do you think it's a tool? Do you think it's a weapon? Do you think that the future is bright or dark when it comes to AI? So let's talk about it all. And then lastly, if you want to see more videos like this one, you want to see what crazy adventures I get up to in the future, because there will be some crazy adventures. They're coming. Just give me some time. I've had a long year. I'm working on it. Or if you just want to see more of my face, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And I will see you on the next one.